Welcome to Inspired Edinburgh, the home of powerful conversations. I'm Elliot Reeves, and my guest today is Professor Harald Haas. Professor Haas is Chair of Mobile Communications at the University of Edinburgh and is the initiator, co-founder and Chief Scientific Officer of pureLiFi Limited, as well as the Director of the LiFi Research and Development Centre. In your 2011 TED Global talk, Wireless Data from Every Lightbulb, you first introduced and coined the term LiFi, a technology for wireless communication between devices using light. To date, the talk has been watched more than 2.5 million times. LiFi was listed among the 50 best inventions in Time magazine 2011, and your work has since been covered in other international media such as the New York Times, BBC, MSNBC, CNN International, Wired UK, and many more. In 2014, you were selected as one of 10 RISE leaders in the UK. In 2015, you gave a second TED Global talk, which has been viewed more than 2 million times. In 2016, you received the Outstanding Achievement Award from the International Solid State Lighting Alliance. And in 2017, you were elected as a Fellow of the Royal Society of Edinburgh. As well as countless other awards, you hold 31 patents and have more than 30 pending patent applications. You have published 400 conference and journal papers, including a paper in Science, and you have published 2 textbooks with Cambridge University Press. Your Google Scholar H index is currently 69, which I believe is very good, and your work has been cited more than 23,000 times. Absolutely incredible, Professor. It's an honour and a privilege to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here and talk to you. And thank you for inviting me. It's a big delight.
Thanks. It's honestly an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Yes.
And I'm very, very much looking forward to speaking with you.
Thank you.
Interestingly, I mean, when you think back to the first TED talk that you did and everything that has since happened, I mean, what do you feel about that?
Pure excitement. I think the TED talk, we don't know what would happen after the TED talk. I mean, you present your idea, you present what you have been working on for the last, at that time, 10 years. And then you see what the audience says after it. But I knew TED is quite a big thing. And I was very nervous, and maybe most nervous in my whole career before that talk, especially as we had some hiccups of the demonstrator before the talk.
Okay.
So when I started it, I actually didn't really know whether it would work.
Okay.
So I was quite
That's
nervous
awkward.
standing there, and then you have this sort of 1,000 people in front of you, and all of them have paid a lot of money, and they want to see big things and big ideas and so on, and went into it. But I mean, the response and the feedback we've got was really great and magnificent and wonderful.
Absolutely.
And since then we have done much more work on it, and obviously many people have joined the club of LiFi supporters and so on, and it's great to see that. Yeah,
It's amazing. It's amazing.
It's really excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, TED as an organisation now is so well known and so well respected. What was your understanding of it back then?
Kind of funny. I mean, at that time, that was 2010. I actually didn't know of TED, and I almost deleted the invitation. It was one of the days before our family Easter vacation. I got this email, and I was about to close down all my activities, and was about to move it into the trash bin. Yes. But I saw invitation at the subject line. I thought, I'll look into it, and then I read sort of TED. Do you want to present your light communication ideas? And then, I mean, I then did some research and thought, oops,
yes,
I shouldn't delete that. And was really proud and excited to be there.
Fantastic.
Yes.
That's absolutely amazing. It really is. So, I mean, going back a bit, what was your early life like? Where did you grow up, and how would you describe that?
I am German, as you may sense from my terrible accent. So I grew up in a little village in the north of Bavaria. It's a region called Franconia. It's a very secluded, secure little village, about 1,000 people living there, and a big tradition about the way so people live their lives there, and they perhaps live their life in a similar way they have done it 100 and 200 years ago, and very secure environment. And that's where I grew up with very strong sort of local values.
Yeah. So, and where did the urge to move away from there first come from?
Yeah, I think I always, in younger years, I always had a dream to move to other countries, to move to Canada, live in a hut, isolated somewhere close to a lake, and live an isolated life, and think and do things differently. So that was also always somehow in my DNA, if you want. Mm-hmm. And what really changed the way I've approached life was after I've studied, after my graduation, I was receiving a stipend, a scholarship from the Heinz Nixdorf Foundation. So Heinz Nixdorf is a big computer scientist in Germany. He has created a foundation, and he wanted to send young engineers into the Southeast Asia region, mm-hmm. to gain sort of experience in that region, which was and is still sort of very much growing. So I got a scholarship to stay a year in India, and I picked India for many reasons, and I stayed there with Siemens, developing a mobile communication network for the city of Bombay that time, but now Mumbai. Mm-hmm. And imagine I come from a very sort of a traditional environment, and moving into a city which is big, huge, and also culturally totally different.
Yes,
it was hard, really hard, but it taught me a lot, and it taught me that there's more to life than I had until then experienced.
Yes,
and that inspired, sort of further nurtured that original dream of moving out of where and discover the world and discover various different things. And it also then from that visit of that year in India, I wanted then to move away. I decided to go into a PhD, and I wanted to do the PhD in an English-speaking country. This is something that I wanted to achieve, and then picked Edinburgh, and I did my PhD here, and then that's why I partially sit here as well. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Indeed.
Yes.
Going back a bit, I mean, what were your early career aspirations, and how did they kind of evolve as you got older?
I'm an engineer by heart, and I'm proud to be an engineer, and maybe this is also part of my DNA. My father was a technician working for Siemens many years. And he inspired me in a sense to look into engineering. And I know when I was about 10 years old, I got an electronics set, and I got the first LEDs, which didn't know at that time that they are so important for my future sort of career.
Yes.
And I played it with different electronics, and I put my own circuits together, and I got really excited about it. I wanted to be an engineer, I wanted to be creative, and that's why I studied electrical engineering, and I wanted to become a good, solid development engineer. But then there was this little dream in me to move out and move into the big wide world, and so I did that, and I still live my dream of being an engineer, yes, and developing things and being creative. And my definition of an engineer is always you need to be a mathematician, you need to be a physicist, and you need to be an artist.
Oh, really?
And if you take the intersection of all the three, you're an engineer. So the creativity is something that is also what basically is in me, and I wanted to live as well. And that together made me where I am and what I am and what my career is about. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned working for the likes of Siemens. I had read that you worked in mobile communications for sort of 20 years plus.
Yes.
I mean, what was your sort of career path and the career trajectory?
So I started. I started when I after the that scholarship. I worked for Siemens Mobile. I worked for Siemens Semiconductors first, where they built these chips, the silicon that went into mobile telephones, and you know that Siemens was in former time a mobile phone manufacturer.
That's right.
So I worked in that team to develop that piece of silicon. So I was a development engineer, and then I did my PhD in Edinburgh, went back to Siemens Communications Mobile into the research department. But at that time already enriched with a PhD and with the experience in India, I led a research project with the Chinese universities in 2002 and with German universities. So we created all the patents or not all the patents, but some of the patents that are now part of the 4th generation of mobile communication systems. And that also then grew further in me in looking at different ways of mobile communications, and that led me then to LiFi. So that's roughly in a nutshell my career path.
Yes, yeah. What's your earliest memory of LiFi, or the kind of the idea around it?
That's a very interesting question, and the thing is that LiFi has a long history. Actually, we all know Alexander Graham Bell. His father was a professor at the University of Edinburgh. He was here, and he later invented the telephone. But before he invented the telephone, he actually invented the photophone. And it was a telephone not using wires, but using sunlight to communicate over 200 meters. So basically what he did, he had a microphone, and the microphone was connected to a mirror, and there was sunlight coming in, and when the voice, the signal changed the angle of the mirror, so the light reflected off the mirror in accord with the voice that was spoken. And then 200 meters, he had a selenium cell, a very sensitive detector, and that detector detected the changes in the intensity caused by the mirror, and then connected it to a speaker, and he transmitted voice over 200 meters. Using this device. He patented it, and he wanted to call his second daughter Photophone. I understand his wife was against that idea. So that's where the idea of using light and photons for wireless communications was, I guess, born. And then there was further work in the 80s of IBM Research Lab where they used infrared sort of light to communicate, and it was then later also when the high white LEDs came out. There's researchers at Keio University, Professor Nakagawa, who worked on it, and I had a collaboration with them. So I picked up that idea. So what we did then is use that idea and improve data rates, and create not only a point-to-point communication link, but create entire wireless networks using light. And that basically was then the behind that idea of LiFi that we first coined in 2011.
Yes, yeah. Why do you think the photophone never took off?
Maybe because you couldn't telephone at night. You couldn't have a conversation overnight at night. And but technology has evolved, and we are not using sunlight anymore. We're using LED light, and lights are always kind of on. Yes. In buildings and offices, and 80% or 90% of all mobile traffic originates indoors, where there's likelihood of light, and also terminates indoors. So it's an ideal bearer of information.
Yes, yeah. I would imagine everyone watching or listening would know what Wi-Fi is. But, I mean, what is LiFi, and how does it work?
Yes, it's a very good question. So everybody but many people know what Wi-Fi is. Wi-Fi is sort of wireless communications using this router somewhere placed at a wall and using radio communication. So LiFi does the same, but doesn't use radio communications. It uses ordinary light. It uses light produced by LEDs. So LED light to communicate at faster speeds and ubiquitously. And the reason why we do that, and the reason why we came up, and the reason why it has got so much traction is that effect that we know as spectrum crunch. I don't know whether this is a familiar phrase, but if you go to an airport, I guess you have experienced the case where you want to download, you want to go into your Facebook, but you can't log in, you can't get the speeds that you need because so many people at the same time want to use the internet. Yes. Or if you go to London and you're at the city center and you want to again download a website, it really doesn't work. It is because so many people want to use that utility at the same time at very high data rates, videos and YouTube videos and so on. But the radio spectrum is very scarce. It's sort of the bandwidth, the resources are very, very limited and also very expensive. so that we are running into this shortage of constraining our utility, which has become as important as water and gas supply at home. But LiFi provides a big fat pipe, if you want, to provide new ways, new pipes for data communication. And it's, in fact, the visible light resources are 2,600 times larger than the entire radio spectrum. And they are free, and they are secure, and are safe. And that provides this unique opportunity to make our future of data communication, of things that drive the fourth industrial revolution, to make it future-proof.
Yeah.
And we always compare what we do with building the nervous system of the future intelligent world, an artificial intelligent world, where you will have cars on the road that drive independently, autonomously. You have that same ships, autonomous ships, autonomous vehicles, drones, and we are getting more and more connected. But to do that, you need the resources, you need the oil whales, you need the resources to do that, and light provides that in a plentiful manner. Yeah. And that's why we are excited, and many other people are excited about it.
We had kind of spoken before, and you'd mentioned that it was, I suppose, analogous or similar to there being traffic on one lane versus having 2,600. I mean, is that virtually what it's like?
Yeah, I think just a comparison in terms of what it means. If you imagine the Highlands, you have the single track lanes, and you have the passing places. When a car comes into the other direction, you need to let it pass. And if you imagine that the cars would be data packets, so chunks of data that basically form your video. Yeah. In a single track lane, you get only so many cars along that road, right? And sometimes you need to wait, so you get a delay. But now imagine you have 2,600 of lanes forming your highway. Yeah. You can have many more cars and many more packets that run over that big highway. And that actually is what LiFi will and does provide now and more so in the future.
I mean, I would highly recommend that anyone that hasn't already seen your TED talk, or any of you, because you've done a TEDx talk as well, so any of your TED talks, they really should watch them, because that gives a real life demonstration as to how it works, it's absolutely fascinating and quite incredible.
It does. It is also installed in one of the first time in the Scottish school at Kyle Academy in Ayrshire.
Really?
We have equipped that school with LiFi luminaires, and wow. That provides additional connectivity in a classroom and so on, and where usually with thick walls and so on, Wi-Fi really doesn't provide that need in terms of data capability.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've seen sources that claim that it can be around 100 times faster than standard Wi-Fi. Is that accurate?
I think there's always the question what you compare with, because there's so many flavors of Wi-Fi. You have Bluetooth, you have LTE, you have Wi-Fi. The same as in LiFi, there's different flavors. But it is possible, and I would even say it's possible to have 1,000 times faster LiFi. And in our lab, we have just demonstrated a few weeks ago that we can transmit 15 gigabit per second. Wow. With LEDs that we buy off the shelf. So really go to an electronic shop and buy LEDs that are less than 50 pence and have transmitted 15 gigabit, which is at least twice as fast as the fastest Wi-Fi. And that is only the start of the journey of going to 20 gigabit, 100 gigabit, and even a terabit is now what we're trying to do in a research project we've just launched. Wow. And I think it could be 1,000 times faster. So I mean, if a video that you download would now take 10 minutes with the current system, it would be half a second with that kind of capability. So that is really what this is about.
Yeah, I feel like I need that technology in my life.
I hope we will have it in the future, and I think we see that coming clearly.
So, I mean, just as an example, I mean, contrasting, say, LiFi to even quick fiber optic broadband, I mean, what would be the main benefits to the user?
So the main benefits is this really big capability of providing very high data rates. That is the first and foremost advantage.
Mm-hmm.
The other advantage is it is more secure.
Okay.
So if you have a room that is concealed by walls and solid walls, thus it means that the LiFi signals will not pass the walls. So if you go on the street here and you look into your Wi-Fi networks, you may detect 20, 30, 40 Wi-Fi networks of all the neighbors here.
Yes.
And that would mean potentially you can break into them. But with LiFi, it is impossible to get a signal out of this room. So it's more secure. It works underwater. So
Wow,
if you think about underwater remote operated vehicles to explore the seabeds and do all the things around that, in that environment, radio doesn't work. Radio only communicates about a few millimeters or centimeters because of the saltiness of the water. But light, as you know, propagates up to 100 meters more. So you can build wireless networks underwater, or even to the satellites. It's also used optical communication, very narrow laser beams. So it works in environments where it doesn't, where other means don't work. And also it works in intrinsically safe environments. And an oil platform, for example, where radio technologies can't be used, as the antenna could create a spark and an explosion.
Yes.
But with light, you don't have that problem. So you can work it in petrochemical plants, in nuclear power plants, in oil platforms, as I said earlier. So it works in different environments as well. And it is basically small, integratable, and it can be in every home appliance at home, in your toaster, in your fridge, in your oven. I mean, and create this future intelligent systems that, for example, your toaster orders itself from Amazon when it is about to break. So using predictive maintenance and the light communication communicates to the network the device orders itself. It's part of the vision that perhaps we have in the future of means to save time for us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Incredible. I had read through some of the YouTube comments on a few of your talks.
Yes.
And I wondered if perhaps you could dispel this myth that people have suggested a limitation of Wi-Fi is that the data can only be transferred one way and it can't be transferred back to the light.
Yeah, this is one of the few misconceptions around the technology. Obviously, we can use existing lighting infrastructure to provide the communication from the internet to the device. But the devices can also have infrared LEDs. So infrared is light in the invisible region that is used, for example, in TV remote controls. You don't see when you switch your channel, there's light coming out of it. So it's invisible light. And this technology is used for the uplink directions of that, for the direction of from the device to the access point in the ceiling. It's bidirectional. It also works under strong sunlight conditions. Even if you have full sunny day here in beautiful Scotland and in Edinburgh, it would work, and the data rates would perhaps be only compromised by a maximum of 5%.
Really?
Because of the patented technology that we use to transmit data with lights.
Wow.
And it also works in a non-line of sight environment. So if you have your receiver turned around, not pointing to the transmitter, it would still pick up the signals from the reflection. So the floor reflects the signal, the table, the glass, and these reflections will also be collected by the receiver, and they carry the data, and the data can be decoded using these signals. So it is a non-line of sight technology as well.
I hadn't realized that. I didn't know that.
It is.
So that's
it
really
is.
Interesting.
But there are limits. For example, it doesn't go through walls, which is it's clear. So, but it allows us another feature, which is the security. So it's a very nice balanced trade-off of these advantages.
Yeah. What impact could LiFi have on the world longer term, do you think?
As I said, we are moving into this sort of fourth industrial revolution. I mean, it's all about digital economies, economies that are scaled around data. And if you think about that means that you have to collect data. We have sensor networks, so houses, buildings, roads, smart cities are all fully equipped with data sensors everywhere to see if things move or if the bin is emptied or not. There's sensors everywhere, right? And then we talk about cloud. We talk about the internet, where the data is processed. So the artificial intelligence, machine learning, is sort of the brain that is sitting in the cloud somewhere in some server farms, or where servers are. And we talk about smart manufacturing. We talk about Industry 4.0s, where you have smart robots that then do manufacture things in an autonomous fashion. So these are the arms and legs, basically, of the future intelligent system we are creating. But in order to connect the sensors with the brain in a server somewhere in the Silicon Valley, you need the connectivity. And you need so many connections, so many nerve tracks going from every single sensor to that brain that does the artificial intelligence. So what we are building is sort of the nervous system, the really fully nervous system that enables the future world of autonomous systems and all the AI and machine learning kind of algorithms to work and function and act upon the data it receives in terms of managing the robots in a manufacturing hall and so on. Or for example, if you have the glasses, the AR, so augmented reality, virtual reality, you have your glasses, and on top of your vision, you get a little display in your glasses, and that helps you to get additional information when you walk. And that requires a lot of data connected to the glasses that you wear, and so on. So we need more nerve tracks in order to build that future vision. And as I said, we have one lane at the moment, which is the current Wi-Fi and wireless communication system, but we need to build these 2,600 additional lanes in order to enable that vision.
Yes. I'm hoping that one of these questions will lead into the other. So, kind of two-pronged question, if you like. What are some of the main challenges that you face in rolling this out, globally, and how potentially disruptive could it be?
I think this is a very, very good question, and the main challenge that we have is the awareness in public.
Okay.
And therefore, I'm very grateful about this instrument of TED. TED has helped us a lot to spread the idea.
Yes.
To spread the idea that you can use your LED light to transmit data at very, very high speeds. So that's the first. But that's a good start. But it needs to be further communicated in terms of what are the different use cases, where can you use it, in what way, in what means, and how does it help industry. So it's educating the markets is very important, and it's important to tell them there's this new technology that does all the good things for you, as people are not aware that there is the possibility, or many people are not aware that there is a possibility to use light. So educating is very important. And then it impacts two industries, essentially. It impacts the wireless communications industry.
Yes.
Who have invested a lot into radio communications technologies. We are now at the verge of the introduction of 5G. And there's therefore also strategic reasons why some industries are not very open in openly picking up LiFi at the moment, understandably, but it will be a means for them to secure their future, and that is already recognized. There's another industry, which is the lighting industry, which suffers a different problem in that the LED light bulb has a lifetime of 20 years and more. So if you are a light bulb manufacturer and you suddenly don't sell your devices anymore, you need to rethink your business models.
Yes.
It's a little bit like the analog photography, when you had sort of the CMOS sensor coming in, and Kodak, and for example, had big problems as they couldn't sell their film rolls anymore. So this is a kind of a change we see in the lighting industry. So the lighting industry requires a diversification, it requires new ways of creating business models. And that means that LiFi is, I wouldn't say a savior, but it is a possibility. It's a strong component to enable new business model in that industry, so that a lighting company can now provide services. So you install your light in buildings, but at the same time you create a nervous system of a building, enabling many applications. So like the smartphone. I mean, the first mobile phone provided one service, is mobile telephony.
Yeah.
And now the smartphone provides hundreds of services. The same is with the light bulb. The incandescent light bulb provides one service, illumination. But with LiFi, the light bulbs can provide hundreds of services.
Yeah.
And that's the opportunity in the lighting industry. That's why I think there's two industries which will be positively impacted by LiFi, and there's great opportunities of new companies coming in to seize that opportunity using LiFi and creating new ways of generating business models.
Yes. Yeah. In 2011, at your TED talk, if someone then had asked you in 2018, where do you see this in terms of progress? I mean, where are you at the moment relative to that?
I think we are on exactly that trajectory that we saw after the big wave of positive feedback after the TED talk. I mean, there's new challenges that came into when it comes to commercializing that technology that we've seen. But the main thrust, the main direction, and the main recognition is exactly where we thought we would be heading. For example, when we introduced LiFi, we said, in order to make it ubiquitous, in order to make industry adopting it, we need a standard. We need a standard so that different manufacturer of LiFi equipment can live on the market and can provide the equipment that is interoperable. And now we are at exactly that stage where big industries in the lighting industry, from the wireless communications industry, sit around the table at an IEEE standardization body 802.11 BB to formulate a standard that hopefully will be ratified in 2021. And that is the underlying enabler for it to become really ubiquitous. And that's happened. It has happened. And I'm very grateful that so many of my colleagues and not so many people around the world in industries have really seen that opportunity that is behind LiFi.
Yeah. When would you expect that it will be worldwide in people's houses?
I think if you imagine, the company I founded, pureLiFi, we've just released the world's first, or not just, but this year released a dongle that is the size of a memory stick. And we have also released a LiFi integrated light bulb that you can buy from our partners. And this is exactly, if you think about this memory stick, is exactly where Wi-Fi was 15 years ago. When you wanted to have Wi-Fi that time, 15 years ago, you bought a stick, a memory stick, a dongle, and you got connected. So 15 years Wi-Fi, and Wi-Fi is now arguably all over the place. It's ubiquitous. But innovation cycles have become faster. So it will not take 15 years for LiFi to become ubiquitous.
Okay.
My guess is 3 to 5 years, and then it will take up. And we see the trajectory, we see that pathway, and the miniaturization into pieces of silicon has started. And we see that massive integration going on. And it's fast, it's very fast.
That's incredibly exciting.
Yeah.
Really is. What do you think are going to be some of the biggest technological advances in the coming years?
I think the advances will be around the data rates. So at the moment, the commercial products are in the region of 50 megabit per second. We'll see a tremendous improvement in the technology roadmaps in providing these gigabits that we've shown in the labs. This will coming on the market, and our hope is that the smartphone manufacturers will recognize the opportunity and integrate the modems and the modules we've created into the smartphones, so it becomes integrated into smartphones. So the lighting industry realize, okay, if they integrate LiFi into their lamps, they can sell wireless equipment rather than lighting equipment, and leveraging this big opportunity in creating new services. So in the future, if you go to Amazon, you don't buy an LED light bulb, you buy a LiFi light bulb, which provides you light plus sort of data connectivity in your homes.
Yeah.
This is something that the advances we will see in the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What are your feelings on artificial intelligence?
Artificial intelligence is wonderful. I mean, this is a little bit of a buzzword because we have artificial intelligence in our equipment already. I mean, if you remember, maybe a few tens of years or 10 years ago, there was this hype of fuzzy logic. Have you heard that? So your washing machine basically adjusted the way it uses the water and the detergents in a way that is based on what's the content, so how dirty is your things in there, and then adjusts all the parameters.
Okay.
And that was an intelligent system based on fuzzy logic, and this has just been carried on and put under the umbrella of artificial intelligence, but it is basically a synonym for us getting smarter devices around us that act more independently and autonomously. And the main driver for doing all of this is basically creating a better living environment and helping us to save time, so that we can, the time that we've gained, use in a more sort of creative way and a more intelligent way.
Yeah.
So I think it has to be wrapped around this wave of autonomous systems, perhaps, and it is an essential part. But it's like LiFi, the basic building blocks have been there for a long time, but it has gained new momentum with the prospect of the fourth industrial revolution.
Do you think we run the risk of making ourselves redundant?
I'm hoping we will make ourselves redundant, and that's a very good statement, because I'm slightly concerned by the fact that there are many people who say technology is something bad, something we shouldn't have. Why do we need all these new technologies? It's scary, it's dangerous, and what about artificial intelligence? What about the machines control us and so on?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's all rubbish.
Really?
No, I think. How old did people get 200 years ago? What was the average age 200 years ago?
Less than what it is now. It was probably 50 or something.
I guess less than that.
Really?
So 40
less?
maybe, 40, 50.
Yeah.
What's the average now? It's about 80, right?
Yeah.
And why is that? Why are we are not in dirty coal mines anymore? Because we have technology that does it, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And technology not only helped us in our industrial environments, it made our air cleaner. It's not yet as clean as it should be, but it's cleaner. It allowed us to do creative jobs in front of computers. It allowed us to have a working week that is not 80 hours, it is maybe 40, 30 hours. And we have increased the productivity. So the investment of our time has created more wealth. And that's wonderful. We have in healthcare, we have innovated. We have medical technologies that you scan your brain and you understand there's something wrong early, and you can detect early and can fix it, hopefully. So it's all technology that has really led to us living a better life, and we forget that sometimes, and a longer life, and can go on holidays. I mean, 200 years, people haven't been able to go and travel the world because they had to live their life and have to make sure that they are not dying the next day, have enough food and so on. It's all around technology. So the technology is helped us, and it's very important. We see that we need to honor this to a certain extent.
That's really interesting, because I think you're right. I think there are a lot of people who think that more technology is the wrong way to go.
No, I think more technology is very important, and I would be delighted if we have manufacturing plants where you turn on the switch on a Sunday evening, or maybe on the 1st of January in a year, and the machines run through the year without any human intervention. All the humans could then stay at home, read books, be creative, and spend valuable time with their children and do the things that really matter in life. That's creativity, and everything that's repetitive is to be avoided. We need to do things that are new, creative, and invent new things and invent new methods, for example, to tackle cancer and to tackle the big problems on the planet, rather than wasting our time in doing repetitive stuff. And I hate repetitive stuff, and that's why I think technology can help there.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, if there is manufacturing plants that are productive without human interaction, governments could rethink the concept of a baseline salary for all people.
Yeah.
So that they make their living from that sort of state salary. Why not?
Yeah.
It's possible. Switzerland thinks about that. And it's actually a good way forward.
Yeah, I was literally going to ask you that, because I mean, if people we've created a world whereby people need money to survive.
Yes, sure.
So if people aren't doing jobs like working in factories or whatnot, I mean, how do they then earn money in order to survive, in essence? I mean, does that mean that you would support a universal basic income type idea, or are there other ways that you think?
I think the universal basic income idea is something that I think should be coming, and the fact that we go out to work is a result of a second industrial revolution. Okay. Before that, people had their specialization. They were tradesmen, they were sort of carpenters and did their job, and then they worked for the butcher and so on. They exchanged their skills, and then that's how they basically made their living. Yeah. And then industrialization came in, and that's why people went into industries and factories, and that's only within a certain time. But there's also therefore a way to get out of this and say, let machines produce the wealth that we need and give a baseline salary so that people can use that baseline to then do the things they want to do and be in their own skill set and be creative and do things they really want to do. Yeah, I've seen so many people who are just going out to work just to make a living. But many people say, I hate my job, but I need the money. Yes. But why not saying this is wrong? You should do. Time is so short. You should do what your heart tells you. And no matter what, if it's you're an artist and you create paintings which are wonderful, but you're not getting the millions out of it. That should be possible, because there's always value in these creative jobs, and people should be allowed to do what they really want to do.
I love that answer, Professor Haas. That's great.
Yeah, I think technology helps, and the technology is the way out of this dilemma.
You think so?
Absolutely. And we need a nervous system. That's why we need LiFi in order to build that vision, right?
Excellent.
So I'm very narrow-minded. Obviously, LiFi is only a part of the system solution of the future. Sure. We need artificial intelligence. We need the sensors. We need the algorithms that glue everything together. Yeah. But it's a necessary component. Not sufficient, but necessary.
Necessary. Okay. Looking at Scotland as a technological ecosystem, I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, Scotland has a strong history of very creative and very influential minds. Adam Smith and you go to Maxwell in our space. Yeah. Very creative, and I mean, it's always been a European lighthouse in terms of education. I mean, it is very rich in that heritage, and it needs perhaps to develop a little bit more the industrial base. Okay. So that there's a way to leverage all the big and good brains here to draw in industry that create sort of industrial value in a high skilled sector. I guess there's a way that perhaps is needed, and there's good examples of that vision being achieved. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What do you think are some of the biggest I don't know challenges or limitations, but what do you think are some of the things that we should be doing better?
I think what I really treasured, and that's why I came to Great Britain, is the freedom of thought and the freedom of creativity, and that you could drive ideas that are not mainstream. You're not shut down if you have a stupid idea, and people would tolerate that. Yes, it's a good idea. Let's go ahead and do it further.
Yeah.
So it's that environment where you can have these ideas and no one, people would support you. That's the culture here. It's creativity, and that's really what I like. But what the shortcome is a little bit to follow the creativity through to the end.
Mm-hmm.
So you have an idea, and you need to build a corporation, a business around an idea. There's too often the case that people develop it to a certain extent, and then they want to cash in and sell it off.
Yeah.
And that spirit of following an idea through, so you get companies in this region here that are as big as the Googles, the Amazons, the Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
That requires this additional sort of stamina to follow things through, and that also the spirit. That is perhaps something that could be added to leverage all the wonderful knowledge and experience and skills that are here.
Mm-hmm. Mm. What are your views on investment for early stage companies?
I think that is one of the main reasons why perhaps there is not this really follow through. Because you have a wonderful angel investor environment and community in this region, but for some things like also pureLiFi, at a certain stage you need bigger investment. You need investment firms that are not here locally. They are in London. They are elsewhere. So the centralization down in London is perhaps a bit of a limitation for building bigger companies in a region here. Or maybe a point of reflection that I think what would really help that environment if there's more, is a better investment community here, and investment firms that would support the local companies in that region.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
interesting. I've got some questions for you that perhaps go a bit deeper, some of the sort of philosophical questions. The first one I'm going to ask you is, how do you feel that you have evolved as a person throughout your life?
I think what really opened, and I said that earlier, is traveling, moving out of your comfort zone and going through hard times. And this may be hard at a time, but in the long run has made me stronger and more resilient. So I can digest sort of perhaps hard times easier with this sort of resilience that I've built in. So in that way, I think to travel and experience in different environments really helped me live a more sort of a resilient life. Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest challenge that you faced?
The biggest challenge I faced, it is really moving out of a secure environment into an open world and having to cope with different environments, different cultural elements, and make sure that you understand your environment, you adapt to it, and you learn. Yeah, that's perhaps one of the biggest challenges I faced. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. What do you feel is your purpose in life?
I think this is a very, very good question. So I think, without going too much into religion, I believe that every one of us has a certain purpose on the planet that we have to find. So we have to find our place in the world and be searching for that, and hopefully find that place and contribute to society, contribute to building a better world. I think hopefully that is something that everyone should be aware of. And it's very important for us as well, and that we realize that we are part of the nature, part of that planet, and children for us are very important means in making sure that there's sustainable inheritance of values, and people can carry forward ideas and build a better world. So that's, I guess, some of the answers to that very difficult question. Yeah.
Yes, but as an individual, I mean, what do you feel is your own purpose in terms of giving to the world?
I mean, a lot of, things like LiFi that we do is great. Really, really, we are very blessed that it's being received so much recognition, and that's good. So that's perhaps something that we've contributed and hopefully will help build better systems and increase lifetime, improve our quality of life. But for me, it's so important that we make sure that our children live a life and equip them with the right skills and good balance between control and freedom, so that they can live their own life and find their purpose in their lives, and guide them through this very difficult journey, at least for some time, and making sure that there's more good citizens who come out. I mean, perhaps this is what we can expect, and it's perhaps a bit too much if you would think that we are more important, because in 300 years from now, I guess no one will remember that we've been sitting here and discussing about our purpose in life, because everyone would have forgotten about us. So we need to be humble as well at the same time. Yeah.
You never know.
Never know. Don't throw away the video disc that you create. Yeah,
exactly.
Put it into a bottle and put it on the ocean. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. But it's really interesting what you said there. So, I mean, I suppose your name has possibly become synonymous with LiFi, and yet, I suppose LiFi doesn't define you. It's not who you are.
No, it does not. I think it is not. It's something that we've created alongside our vision, our intention, our ambition. But I think I hope I'll be more than that.
Yeah.
And my wife always reminds me that you're more than that, and that's absolutely correct.
So on that basis, I mean, what would you like your legacy to be? How would you like to be remembered?
I like to be remembered to be a good citizen of the planet, and that my children will speak positively of me when I've died, and say that was a good dad. I mean, I don't have any greater aspirations, perhaps.
No, really?
No.
Which is interesting, because your legacy could be, I suppose you're maybe being quite humble, but your legacy could be somebody that radically transformed the way that the world works.
It would be nice to have, and I would like that LiFi is providing the nervous system of the future, and that people benefit from it, that it saves lives, it creates that vision that really people can have a baseline salary and create a better. Maybe it helps. Maybe hopefully it is part of it, and but yeah, we can only hope. And but it's many people that will contribute to make this happen. So it is not only one singular person. It's really a big community, and also my colleagues who have worked on that, and my colleagues in the company who basically work really 7 days, 24 hours almost to make it happen. So it's many people who would make that a reality. So it is not attributed to one person. Yeah. It is a collective approach. And I hope that it will come to that point that you use it at home. Yeah. You have it in your fridge, in your oven, in your smartphone, in your shoes, to have sort of smart shoes and so on.
Amazing.
Have it everywhere.
Yeah. What is it that drives you? I mean, what is your why?
I mean, I partially said that already. So what drives me is this continuous quest for innovation. I hate the most repetitive stuff, and what I hate is you can ask my wife, filling out forms.
Okay.
I hate being given a framework and I have to fit into a framework. I hate to be sort of in a frame.
In a box, yeah.
In a box.
Yeah.
And I want to do different things and try out different things and improve things around us. And that's why LiFi was one of this, improving wireless connectivity, improving that shortcome of data rates suddenly going down when too many people want to use radio communications. Improve things and make it better. That is something that really, really drives me. And again, combining the basic skills I've been taught at university in mathematics, physics, and combine it with creativity. And that is what drives me. And doing things in a way of, as you say, out of the box, thinking not in the classic way, but trying the odd thing and see if it works.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just wondering, I've been kind of had a running narrative in my head. It's just basically along the lines of the fact that the millennial generation are often spoken about as wanting to have an impact, wanting to do good and kind of change the world. And that's really what you're kind of talking about. And, you know, you're pre-millennial generation. What is it that makes you want to change the world and make it a better place? Why do more people not think like that? I've thrown a lot at you there. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it is a motivation to improve things. It may be a stereotype. Say I want to improve the world, and maybe everybody says I want to improve the world, but actually realizing you can, and it's not only a platitude or a phrase that everybody of us has in their own hands, in their own ways, the skills to do it is very important to recognize.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the motivation, and perhaps if you look back into the evolution of life on the planet, this is why we brought up. That's why we are sitting here. That's why we have evolved from a few atoms into some living species, because evolution has driven us to be better, and improve things.
Yeah.
So that we create very intelligent life. And I guess we should continue with that.
Awesome. This is a slightly esoteric question, but how would you describe your worldview in terms of, are you optimistic? Are you realistic? What's your experience of the world?
When I was younger, I was traditionally fairly pessimistic.
Okay.
I don't know. It's where it's come, but I always saw the things that are not so good and how to improve that, and that's why sort of the idea of moving out to Canada, live in a hut somewhere remotely, and to follow your dream and follow your thoughts, came out of this sort of more negative thinking. But this has turned over the years, and I think I've become a more positive person, looking into a way that we are really empowered to change the world to the better. And maybe the frustration in the early years was because I was sort of basically locked into this little village, and there's only so much you could do. But then realizing you can do the things that improve things, perhaps has also changed me in terms of the way I see the world, and see more positive things that we can create and influence. So that's also important, that how the environment changes people, and that is quite interesting. I mean, genes are important, but I think the environment is so much important as well. And that's why I always say, if we talk about Europe, we should have a policy in Europe that every citizen in Europe should be having a sabbatical for 2 years to go into a country of choice in Europe, to live there for 2 years and see how people live their lives in a different environment, a different culture. This will educate a lot. And perhaps we wouldn't have the discussions that we have now if we had that.
That's really quite forward thinking.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you think you will ever move to Canada?
I don't think so. Maybe we do. I don't know. But it might be possible. Yeah, why not?
Do you still have that yearning to move into the wilderness?
I don't want to be locked into something. I still want to retain, although it's getting more and more difficult. The older you get, you have children that are living socially embedded into social structures. Its flexibility is not that high anymore. But we always see as our family, we want to retain the flexibility to move if things make sense. Yeah, why not?
How do you define success?
Success is, this is again stereotype answers. Success is linked to happiness.
Okay.
If you are satisfied with whatever you do, it's success. It's a personal definition, and it's also linked to ambition. There's people with high ambition. For them, it's harder to achieve success, and there's people with low ambition. It's easier to achieve success. Is really setting yourself goals, and I think that's important. And it's important to set high goals.
Yes.
It's easy to just be satisfied and live a life, but you could end up in some life that is not giving you the great satisfaction, because satisfaction rises with the goals.
Yeah.
And it's important to realize, and this is also what I say to students, is you may think you have limitations. You may think you cannot achieve that. You may think because people around you, your environment told you, this is the frame in which you fit. But actually, the frame in which people fit is determined by everyone on its own. There's no external influences that determine the frame, and everybody will have the opportunity to reach big goals and to be leaders and to be Nobel laureates, to be able to do that. Yeah. It's only the mindset that provides that limitation. That's what I've learned over the years. And that's a very important recognition, because it opens up a world of opportunities.
Yes. Yeah. It's an amazing way of thinking as well.
It is. I don't know. It's
Yeah. You've achieved an enormous amount. It's actually quite incredible when I read out the introduction how much you've done, and you've become, I suppose, something of a global tech icon. Do you feel successful?
I feel happy and proud of the endorsement of what we do, and I still recognize, at least my ambition is to make it a worldwide success. Means that everybody in some way has LiFi in their pockets, in their homes, and we're not yet there. So my ambition is still that we need to make that vision ubiquitous and that it touches everyone. So I'm glad we are where we are, but still there's some work to be done.
Okay.
And and that's what we're trying to achieve, and that's still our ambition.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have any other life goals as such?
Yeah, I think. Coming back to the family, which is so important for us, for me, is really trying to get a better work-life balance and being able to spend more valuable time with the family is my goal. And somehow my work is my hobby, but I want to have more time, because it's incredible how fast sort of time passes and how quickly children grow, and sometimes they leave, and that's missed opportunities, and that is something that I want to improve, in the sense that getting a very good balance there as well.
How much do you work?
With modern technology, and I kind of hopefully not contradict myself. With modern technology, we can sadly are enabled to work anytime, at any place, everywhere. And this is something we we can use, but we need to learn to control a little bit.
Yeah.
So I mean, the laptop is I use it at home and then use it in the morning before going to the university and in the evening. So it's whenever there's free time, there's work as well, because it's endless. Yeah.
But presumably it's your passion, right?
It is my passion. Yes, yeah. But at the same time, I also feel the passion that I want to do more in discovering the world together with my children, and that is a kind of sometimes a conflict of time, basically.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I cannot say that, and in a way, I don't. I'm bad in listening and taking advice. That is perhaps because I've always wanted to experience I want to experience advice and don't want to take advice. So
yeah, that's a great way to look at it.
I hate advice, in fact. So because so I want to prove it that advice is real, and it's not by words, but by doing things and learning. So I'm not a good advice taker, so therefore I can't really remember what's the best advice I've taken.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Whose advice would you have been taking when you decided to move?
Whose advice? In what sense?
Does that make sense?
Not really.
So your decision to move, was that your own? That was entirely your own idea.
Yeah.
No one else had ever suggested that.
Indeed,
really?
I mean, it's gone completely contrary to what people in that little village do. I mean, maybe there's a handful of people in my age who left that village.
Really?
Because they are locked into tradition to do the things, and you grow up, you take a job, you have a flat next to your parents, and you basically extend the house of your parents, live in the same neighborhood, and go to the same school, and have the same friend, and it's all very repetitive, all predictable, and moving out of that space is not many people do that, and I guess it was one of these driving motivations to experience something else. Mm-hmm. But the only advice I would have got: don't do it, stay here and do continue with the tradition. Yeah.
What do you think you would have achieved had you stayed there?
I don't know. Maybe hugely frustrated. I don't know. I can't tell. It's,
really?
Yeah, hypothetical. Yeah.
If you had the opportunity to speak to your 20-year-old self, what would you say?
I think it's a very good question. I think when you are 20 years old, you always think, oh, there's so much time that you have to build your life. Don't bother. So just do the things, and as you have time, you can wait, and you could do that thing first and another thing. But actually, what you realize is that 20 years are going past very quickly, and 20 years is it might be a long time, but it's actually very short. I think I would have accelerated things at that time, if I could give myself advice. Do the same thing, but do it quicker and faster, because it gives you more time to do even more on top of it. So that perhaps would be an advice I would have given myself.
Yeah.
Don't wait.
Don't
do
wait.
it. Yeah.
If you could change anything in the world, what would it be and why?
That's a very, very good philosophical question.
It's a big question.
But my view on that is that I think what really caused a lot of frustration and pain on the planet is borders.
Okay.
I think I would remove borders, so that there's only one country. That's the global country. And we realize that we're all humans. We're all part of the same species, and our obligation is to make sure that planet is sustainable. It can grow. Doesn't utilize the resources that our children would need it, or their children would have needed. So we have a fair treatment of the resources on the limited planet, and act as one community, and don't waste resources, time, and energy to fight each other.
Wow. So everyone would simply be an inhabitant of planet Earth?
Yes, I would be an inhabitant of a planet Earth.
Okay.
Yes.
How would you manage travel and where people live?
People should decide where they travel, where they live,
Yeah.
and if they are happy to live in a traditional environment that they grew up, then they should have the freedom, opportunity to do that. If they want to travel, if they want to experience something else, they should be able to move to the States or to Asia and live their life there and learn Chinese and Mandarin and Japanese. Still, it would have local cultural elements, but it will be part of one community. That I think is, I guess, would solve a lot of problems.
Do you think that about other man-made constructs, so to speak? So borders certainly being one, but I mean, I want to be careful as to not kind of disparage anything, but things like religion or things like certain beliefs that ultimately can lead to division between people. I mean, would you see a sort of breakdown of that more in order to make the world a better place?
I think it is a matter of creating that environment of tolerance and acceptance. If you don't have boundaries, you don't have any way of creating a difference. And that potential difference of wealthy countries, less wealthy countries, creates a lot of problems. So if you try to equalize, in a sense, wealth, development, and accept that there is no boundary between the religion, so that everyone can follow their belief and be just tolerant about it, is part of this one community around the planet. So like belief is one element, but speaking a certain language is also part of a boundary, if you want, but that would be not material anymore. So religion wouldn't be material. People would just exercise what their own beliefs, religion, language, traditions are, and you would have that acceptance and tolerance, hopefully.
Yeah.
It could be. I mean, this is I mean, we're far away from that and maybe not achievable, but I think for me, boundaries have been very limiting, and have also been led to this thinking of we and them.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
And we and them means there's a difference. We're not part of the same, although we are. And that mental and the spiritual thinking is quite something that I think has not helped. I'm German, born in Germany, but I feel like a European. But I can extrapolate, I can generalize that concept. I'm an Earthian, if you want. If you would think that you could travel all the planets, you can live on Mars and Jupiter, and suddenly imagine there's people on Jupiter, they would be the Jupiterians, and now we are Earthens. So it's all a mental concept. You can generalize it, and that would give you an entirely new perspective of the way who we are, what we are, and how important we are, given the grand scheme of things.
Yes. Wow. That's an incredibly profound and powerful answer to what is really quite a difficult question. So.
I guess not realistic in that we are living in a world, statements of fantasy here. But I think I think that I guess could help.
Visionary nonetheless. Yeah. Professor Haas, it's been an absolute honour speaking to you. I've genuinely loved this interview. It's been brilliant, and I love hearing your perspectives on things.
Thank you so much, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to be confronted with so many inspirational questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'll let you get away to your family now.
Oh, thank you. I would be delighted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks.